Hi everybody, here we are on Friday afternoon. It's 4 o'clock and it is time for Cooking with Carolina. So today we have a great recipe. I'm very excited to make it. This is actually an original from my days of yore in California. And it is called Manly Man Cornbread. Now I'm very excited. I have my recipe written out. And I have all my ingredients laid out here also, so I know I have everything I need. And we will start by heating the oven to 350 and warming up a cast iron pan. So here's my cast iron pan. It is kind of big. It's like a 12-incher, which you might want to use a 10 for this, but this is what I have, and so this is what I will use. So I'll put on the oven and put this in to preheat. Now, next up is sauteing some bacon. Oh yes, this cornbread's going to be so good. So I have my bacon here. Now we'll only use about 3 pieces of the bacon, and what I like to do with the rest of the bacon is divide it into parts, maybe 2 separate batches, and then put them into bags and freeze them for another time, because I just don't use it quickly enough to just put it back in the fridge. It's better to put it in the freezer and save it for another time. So we'll put on our pan here for cooking the bacon. I'll put that on a medium-low. And we have our 3 pieces. Wait for the pan to heat up just a smidge. Okay, so let's put the bacon in the pan. Let's see here. There we go. Panning the camera over. So now we have our bacon going. I'll go and wash up my hands. All right, and for the bacon, I have these very handy tongs that have a silicone on the end, so you can use them on a non-stick pan. So that comes in a lot of handy for things like cooking bacon in a pan, which actually I usually cook bacon in the microwave, and I have a fancy little bacon cooker that I put it on, and I like that because it drains the grease out of it. But for this recipe, we want some of this grease, so we're going to do it in the pan. And of course, when you're using a non-stick pan, as I'm sure you know, you do not want to use metal directly on it. I will disown you if you do that in my house. I'm very adamant about it. All right, so we've got some sizzle going over here. Now we'll go back to this zone. And next up is putting together our dry ingredients. So often, one mistake that I make when cooking is to do the dry ingredients in the big pan, the big bowl, and the wet ingredients in the little bowl. But really it should be the other way around. So today I'm going to do it right. So we will do the dry ingredients in the little bowl. Okay. Now for this, I've had this recipe for years. It has just been languishing in my recipe box, and I wanted to make it, and I took it out and realized that there were no actual measurements given. It was just all the ingredients written down and then directions written down, but no actual measurements for what you needed. So I took another recipe and guesstimated, so we'll see how it turns out. I'm sure it'll be fine. So we have our cornmeal. Now, the cornmeal was actually kind of hard to find at Stop and Shop. It ended up being, I looked all over, it's not with the flour. I think it was actually on the end cap of the flour aisle. So it was a little difficult. And for this, we want 1 1/4 cups. There we go. Close enough. And then we want flour, just regular flour that we'll mix it together with. Let's check on our bacon. All right, it's doing its thing. So, 1 cup of flour. Very good. Then baking powder, 1 tablespoon. Which is kind of a lot. But that's what I have written down, so we'll just go with it. Alright. Now, as the bacon finishes cooking, we'll mix this together. Okie dokie. And we will prepare for our bacon to exit the pan. I agree, bacon, you can't beat that sound. The sound of the sizzle. So, I'm flipping my bacon. I'm glad you can hear that through the camera. We need smell-o-vision. Now, I do recommend cooking your bacon to crispy for this. I prefer my bacon super crispy anyway, so I always cook it crispy. But for this, you definitely want it crispy so it crumbles. I'm going to get some paper towels to drain our bacon once it comes off. Move this hazardous material to the side. Okay, oh, that bacon's definitely smelling good. And getting about done. so it's been a busy day and kind of a little sad. I had to go into the library today to clean off my desk of all the little tchotchkes and personal items and things that I have a lot of, I will admit. We are doing that just so we can make sure it's all sanitized once we start going back in, and very easy to clean every night. But still, it was weird. And it's tough to go into the library and have it be all empty. But also kind of nice too, just to go in. Okay, so our bacon has come off. I am going to turn this pan down just a smidge because we are still going to be using it. And I'm just going to grab a little something to pour some of the bacon grease in because we will use that from later in the recipe. Okay. There we are. So now what we're actually going to do is cook some corn in the bacon grease. Oh, oven's preheated. So let's see, I said 1 cup of corn. This was definitely a guess. It gives no indication in my recipe of how much corn you would actually use. And actually my recipe does indicate fresh corn, but it's not really the time of year for fresh corn. So we're just gonna go with the frozen corn, and I'm sure it will be delicious. All right, so we're gonna throw this in the pan. Woo, sizzle! And of course I have my beloved spurtle. Now I do have this on low. Cooking in the bacon grease. There we go. And we just want to saute it a little bit. I'm so excited for this cornbread. I have not had it in probably at least 12 years. But I remember it being so super duper good. So I don't know what everybody's doing tonight. Getting some very strange comments today. Quite an interesting crowd watching the cooking show. Thanks for joining me. So, as I was saying, I don't know what everybody's doing tonight, but Friday night is a lot of fun because I have to give my shout out to DJ Smooth B, who does a Facebook Live dance party every Friday night, and a few other nights also. But it often kind of makes the end of my week. And it's very therapeutic to dance. Okay, so we have our corn there. And actually, if you wanted to mix a little butter in with the bacon grease, you could do that too. I think bacon grease is aplenty, all on its own. And let's see, I'm going to turn it up just a smidge. But this looks about good, and we'll move back over. will take our corn and we're going to put this into the wet bowl, the big bowl for the wet stuff. And now we will mix that with some whipping cream. Now you could do heavy cream, I chose light cream. And we will do just 1/3 of a cup of this cream. And then we are going to crack 2 eggs up into it. And I actually do have a chicken, just one now, but she has been laying eggs for me, which is wonderful. And she's a really awesome chicken. I'm a big chicken fan. Her name is Little Red. She's been my super buddy during this crazy crisis. And we're also going to add a little buttermilk. I have 1/3 of a cup of that as well. Woo! Just had 1/3 of a cup left. Perfect. I actually sometimes bathe in buttermilk. Little secret. Like Cleopatra. Okay. So, now we will combine this together. Very good. Little Red is not allowed in the kitchen. She will try though. And now we will slowly mix our dry into our wet. Okay. Now, I even have it noted here that the corn will add moisture. I am not cooking whale meat, no, actually. I'm cooking Manly Man cornbread. So even though the batter does look a little dry, when it's cooking, that creamed corn is going to give off more moisture and do its thing. Alright, so we want to just get that mixed enough to have all the dry moistened. And now we're going to add some cheese. So for this, you would like to use a nice white cheddar. I'm going to get my grater. And I have 1 cup of cheese indicated. I think you could also use orange cheddar, but the white cheddar won't change the color of the cornbread as much. And of course you can adjust the amount of cheese depending on how cheesy you like it. So close enough to 1 cup. We'll put that in there. And then we also are going to put in a little jalapeno. So for this, I think typically you would roast a jalapeno and chop that up, but didn't happen to see jalapenos at the store. So I am going to use the jalapenos that I have on hand. And just chop up some jalapeno slices and throw those in there, because why not? First I have to fish them out. And get a knife. So again here, it depends on whether you want it super spicy, or you can even leave the jalapenos out if you don't want any spice. But considering this is Manly Man cornbread, we put in a little spice. And I'm gonna chop this up pretty fine. Kind of between a chop and a mince, but leaning more towards a mince. Alrighty, so that's really, it's not that much jalapeno. I just don't happen to have that much jalapeno left. It's probably maybe a little over a tablespoon of chopped jalapeno I'm putting in. So now we will add that. I think I'm going to use this spurtle to mix this. It's really thick mixture, so it's kind of hard to do with the spatula here. Get the scraper. And also we're going to put in a little melted butter. So let's see, do I say how much melted butter? 2 tablespoons. So not a lot, just a little. And I'll just throw that into the bacon / cream corn pan to melt it. Turn it on low. And we'll mix this together. Now on Tuesday, I am doing the cookbook club, which you can see on our Facebook page. If you would like to join that, that's going to be a Facebook Zoom. Well, not a Zoom. Not a Facebook Zoom, rather. Just a Zoom. And for that, I am planning to make some ribs, which would really go well with this cornbread. Alright, so we're looking pretty good here with our mixture. Don't want to overmix. Our butter is about good too. Almost melted. And we also want to add the bacon. So we'll crumble up our bacon. If it's crispy enough to just do with your hands, you can do that. Or it looks like I'll probably have to chop it just to get some nice small pieces. But don't forget about your butter on the stove while you're chopping your bacon. In fact, I think I'll just turn that off. I will say this is the first time I've ever been trolled on Facebook. Very exciting. I've reached a new level of celebrity. All right, so we'll add our bacon, oh yeah, and our melted butter. And mix that all up. Fold it in. It's definitely like a bread dough, where it is a little, you gotta use some muscle to stir it. Ooh, it does smell good already though. Looks exciting. Alright, I'd say that's probably as good as we're gonna get. So now we will take our cast iron pan out of the oven, using an oven mitt, of course. Using 2 oven mitts because cast iron pans are heavier than you think. And it's good to have 2 hands to support the pan, especially if there's something in it. I speak from experience. Alrighty, so now we will put our cornbread mixture into our preheated cast iron pan. Grab your oven mitt so you can secure it here. And press it on in there. You know what? I'm going to add more cream to this because it just does not seem like it's spreading well enough. I'm going to stir more cream into it. Make it... Like I said, I had to guess at the measurements for this. But it seems like it should spread a little easier than that. Quite so bread dough. I feel like when I've made cornbread before, it definitely pours in a little more. It's kind of like a cross between bread and cake. Also, I forgot one point, which we'll just lift with that, but we want to put some bacon grease in our cast iron pan. Preferably before you put anything else in there. This looks a little more like it. So we'll put our lip gloppy mixture in there. Scrape it all up. Just be really conscious, since you did preheat your cast iron pan. Don't just grab it. Okay, so we've spread it out in there as well as we could. And now I am going to cook this in the oven at 350 for 30 minutes. And so, as usual, I will post my results in the comments later today, so you can see how it turned out. Alrighty, in it goes. Again, 2 hands on your cast iron pan. Okay, and 30 minutes. And there we go. So Manly Man cornbread is in the oven. And thank you for joining me. Bye, see you next week.